Alien Princess dreaded wedding the cruel human until she encountered him face to face. Princess Leora stared out of the tall window of her chamber, her fingers resting lightly on the cold glass. The stars stretched endlessly across the sky, tiny sparks in the dark, but they brought no comfort to her. Soon, she would be married to a human, a species she had been taught to fear since childhood. She had heard stories of humans being cruel, quick to anger, and willing to destroy anyone who stood in their way. But the stories she had heard about this particular human were even worse. He was said to be cold, ruthless, and unfeeling. Just thinking about him made her stomach twist in fear. The council had chosen him not because he was kind or noble, but because he was strong. The human officer, Lucas, had earned a reputation among humans for his skill in battle and his ability to enforce rules without mercy. His name alone had become a symbol of dread in the human fleet. Every time Leora's advisors mentioned him, they spoke in low voices, as if even talking too loudly might summon him. "He is the only one who can secure peace between our worlds," her chief advisor, Orin, had said. "You must do this, Princess. Your people's future depends on it." Leora had tried to understand the logic. She had studied the human culture through hollow recordings and reports. Humans were efficient, strategic, and strong. They valued survival above all else. But that did not erase the fear that grew in her heart. The stories of Lucas's ruthlessness made her imagine him standing over her with cold eyes, ready to punish even the smallest mistake. She tried to tell herself that she could endure anything for her people, but her nights were filled with anxious dreams. She saw shadows moving in her chamber, felt invisible hands gripping her, and woke in a sweat, her heart racing. The palace halls were quiet that morning, but not in the way of peace. Servants moved swiftly from room to room, their faces tight with worry, their whispers carrying like soft echoes. The entire planet seemed tense. News of the upcoming marriage had spread quickly, and not everyone supported the union. Some saw it as a necessary alliance to prevent a war that could destroy entire star systems. Others believed it was a disgrace, a surrender of their sovereignty to a species they could never trust. Leora heard rumors of protests and secret meetings, but she could not allow herself to focus on those things. She had to prepare for Lucas. A soft knock at the door made her jump. She turned to see her handmaiden Jenna peeking inside. "Princess, the council awaits your presence," Jenna said quietly, stepping inside and closing the door behind her. She moved with careful grace, trying to appear calm even though Leora could sense her unease. Jenna had always been loyal and kind, one of the few people who truly understood the princess's gentle nature. Leora nodded, smoothing the folds of her dress. "Thank you, Jenna," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I will see them." As they walked through the long corridors of the palace, Leora tried to keep her mind steady. She told herself that she would face Lucas one day soon, and she needed to prepare for it. But the thought of meeting him for the first time was terrifying. What if he lived up to the stories? What if he was exactly as cruel as the council said? Her hand tightened around Jenna's as they approached the council chambers, a strange mixture of fear and anticipation knotting in her stomach. The council room was vast, filled with glowing panels and the soft hum of machinery. The elders and advisors sat in a semicircle, their faces serious, their hands folded in front of them. At the center stood Orin, his posture rigid, his eyes calm but intense. He gestured for Leora to sit. She obeyed, her movements careful, as if any sudden action might invite disaster. "Princess," Orin began, his voice steady and low, "the time draws near. Lucas will arrive at the neutral station in 2 days. You will meet him there. This meeting is crucial. Remember that everything you do will affect not only yourself but your entire people. You must show strength, intelligence, and caution." Leora nodded. "I understand," she said, trying to sound brave. The words felt weak in her mouth, but she hoped the council would not notice. Another advisor, a woman named Mari, spoke up. "Remember, Leora, humans are not like us. They do not see the world in the same way. What they consider fair, we may see as cruel. Do not let their actions surprise or frighten you. Remain calm and always keep your mind focused on your goal, the Alliance." Leora listened carefully, her mind absorbing every word. She had read about human behavior, but hearing it from someone she trusted made it more real. She reminded herself again that this marriage was a duty, not a choice. She tried to imagine herself meeting Lucas, trying to picture his face, his expression, his voice. But her imagination only gave her a shadowy figure, tall and harsh, with eyes that burned like fire. The fear coiled inside her chest tighter with each passing moment. After the meeting, Leora returned to her chamber. The palace felt quieter now, almost as if it were holding its breath. She walked slowly to the window, looking out at the stars. The thought of Lucas coming closer made her heart race, but she also felt a strange curiosity. What if he was not as cruel as everyone said? She had never allowed herself to hope for that, but now the possibility flickered in her mind. That night, she could not sleep. She sat in her chamber, the soft glow of the stars bathing the room in silver light. She thought of the stories she had heard, the warnings from the council, and the fear that had shaped her entire life. But she also thought of Jenna's kind smile, the quiet strength of her people, and the hope that maybe, just maybe, humans could be more than the monsters she imagined. She did not know Lucas, and she did not know his heart, but the thought of meeting him, of seeing him as he truly was, filled her with a nervous excitement she could not ignore. The next morning, Leora began her preparations. The palace staff were busy with clothes, jewelry, and the final arrangements for her journey to the neutral station. Leora watched the preparations, her mind restless. She knew she had to learn to control her fear, to appear calm and collected in front of Lucas. She practiced walking, standing, and speaking with confidence, though each attempt felt awkward and forced. Jenna stayed by her side, helping with her dress, adjusting her hair, and offering small words of encouragement. "You are stronger than you think, Princess," she said softly. "Remember, you do not have to be afraid of him. Humans are not all the same. Some are kind, some are cruel. The key is to see the truth for yourself." Leora nodded, holding Jenna's hand for a moment. The words gave her a small measure of comfort, though the fear still lingered. She wondered what Lucas would think of her, what he would expect from her, and how she could possibly show strength when she felt so vulnerable inside. The day of departure came quickly. Leora stepped onto the transport ship, her dress flowing around her as she walked with careful steps. The engines hummed beneath her feet, and the stars stretched endlessly outside the windows. She looked at Jenna, who gave her a reassuring nod. Together, they left the planet behind, moving toward the neutral station where Lucas awaited. As the ship moved through space, Leora felt a mix of fear and anticipation. She thought about the humans she had read about the stories of their wars, and about the rumors of Lucas's cruelty. But she also thought about the words of her advisors, the hope she allowed herself, and the possibility that the human before her might be very different from what she imagined. The journey was long but uneventful. Leora spent her time gazing at the stars, thinking about the future, and trying to prepare herself for the moment when she would finally meet Lucas. She did not know what to expect, but she knew one thing: she could not allow fear to control her. She had to be strong for herself and for her people. As the neutral station came into view, a small point of light in the distance of space, Leora felt her heart pound. Soon, she would meet Lucas face to face. She could not imagine what he would be like, whether he would be cruel or kind, whether he would treat her with respect or disdain. But she had made her choice, even if it was not truly hers. She would face him and she would do her duty. Standing at the observation window, she watched the station grow larger, its structure sharp and cold against the backdrop of the stars. She took a deep breath and whispered to herself, I will not be afraid. I will see the truth for myself." The engine slowed as the ship approached the docking bay. Leora straightened her posture, her hands clenched lightly at her sides. She felt a strange mix of fear and anticipation, a knot of excitement and dread in her chest. Soon the door would open, and she would step into a world she had only imagined. Soon she would meet Lucas, the human officer who had haunted her dreams. And when that moment came, she hoped she would be ready. The transport ship shuddered as it docked at the neutral station. Leora's heart raced in her chest, her palms slick with sweat. Through the viewport, she could see the station's surface, a vast structure of metal and lights, humming quietly against the black of space. She had imagined this moment for weeks, every detail of it, but now that it was real, her stomach twisted with anxiety. Jenna squeezed her hand gently, giving her a small, reassuring smile. "You will be fine, Princess," Jenna said softly. "Remember what I told you. Humans are not all the same. You will see for yourself soon." Leora nodded, taking a deep breath. She straightened her posture and allowed herself a single thought: I have to be brave, for my people, for myself, for the future. The doors of the transport opened with a hiss, and the pair stepped into the docking bay. The air smelled faintly of metal and machinery, a clean, cold scent that made Leora shiver. The bay was vast and empty, save for the distant hum of engines and the soft footsteps of those who moved in the shadows. She had been told Lucas would meet her here, at the station's central hall, a place neutral and free from the influence of either side. The walk to the hall felt endless. Every step echoed against the high ceilings, and Leora's mind raced with imagined horrors. She pictured Lucas standing tall and rigid, his eyes cold, his presence commanding fear. She imagined his voice sharp, cutting, leaving no room for kindness. The stories she had been told by her council, her teachers, even her childhood friends had painted him as a monster. Yet, something inside her hoped they were wrong. Finally, they reached the entrance to the hall. The doors were enormous, crafted from dark metal and glowing faintly with soft lights. Leora's hand hovered near the door controls, hesitant. Jenna gave her another reassuring nod. Together, they stepped inside. The hall was large and circular, filled with light that shimmered off the polished floor. At the center stood a single figure. Leora froze. She had imagined him in countless ways, harsh, imposing, cruel. But this man, he was not what she expected. Lucas was tall, yes, with broad shoulders that suggested strength, but there was a calmness in his posture that did not frighten. His dark hair was neat, his expression serious but not unkind. He held himself with confidence, yet there was no harshness in his eyes. When he noticed Leora, he stepped forward, bowing slightly in a respectful gesture. "Princess Leora," he said, his voice deep but soft, "I am honored to meet you." The words shocked her. She had expected arrogance, a tone of command, perhaps even a warning. Instead, there was respect, almost warmth. She could not speak for a moment, her mind struggling to reconcile this man before her with the image she had built from rumors. I am honored as well," she finally managed to say, her voice trembling slightly. She reminded herself to breathe, to stay calm, but her heart still pounded in her chest. Lucas noticed her hesitation and gave a small, understanding smile. It was subtle, but it sent a strange sense of relief through her. Jenna stepped slightly behind her, watching the interaction carefully. She knew that this moment could define everything to come. Lucas gestured toward a small seating area nearby. "Shall we sit?" he asked politely. His tone was casual, not commanding, not cold. Leora nodded, following him, her steps careful. As they sat, Lucas's gaze remained steady, observing her without judgment. Leora noticed the details she had missed in her panic, the gentleness in his movements, the careful way he placed his hands, the way he spoke clearly and without force. It was nothing like the stories. He was strong, yes, but there was intelligence and patience in him. She felt a small seed of curiosity begin to grow. I have been told many things about humans, Leora said finally, testing the waters. Some of them are frightening. Lucas nodded. I know. Humans can seem harsh to those who do not understand us, but we are not monsters. We fight when we must, yes, but we value loyalty, trust, and life more than most realize. The words were simple, but they carried weight. Leora felt a flicker of hope. Could it be that the stories had exaggerated everything? She decided to push further to test the truth for herself. And you, she said, hesitating. I have heard stories about you, that you are cruel, that you show no mercy. Is it true? Lucas met her gaze steadily, without hesitation. I have made difficult choices, he said. Sometimes war demands them, but cruelty is not my goal. Survival and peace are. I do what must be done to protect those who cannot protect themselves, but I have never enjoyed causing suffering. Leora's chest tightened. She had expected pride, arrogance, or at least a cold justification. Instead, there was honesty, a simple truth that she could feel in her bones. She realized that she had been afraid of a shadow, a story, a rumor, not of the real man before her. For a moment, silence stretched between them, comfortable rather than tense. Leora noticed the small details, the way Lucas's eyes softened when he looked at her, the faint crease of concern in his brow, the calm patience in his voice. It was disarming. You are different from what I imagined, she said finally, a hint of wonder in her voice. Lucas chuckled softly, a low, gentle sound. I have heard that many times, he said. People imagine what they fear, and fear can make shadows of truth. Leora felt a small laugh escape her lips. It was awkward and nervous, but genuine. She had not laughed in days, not like this. The sound surprised her, but it also eased the tension in her chest. For the first time in her life, she felt that fear could be questioned. She could see the possibility of trust. They spoke for hours, exchanging small talk that soon turned into serious discussion. Lucas asked about her world, her people, her hopes and fears. Leora listened as he described his experiences, his thoughts on diplomacy, and his belief that strength without understanding was meaningless. She realized that humans, at least this human, were not simple warriors of destruction, but complex beings capable of care, strategy, and patience. When a diplomat from her planet arrived to escort them to the formal reception, Leora felt a strange reluctance to leave Lucas's side. She had expected fear, perhaps even loathing. Instead, she felt curiosity, a strange desire to understand him fully before judgment. As they walked toward the reception area, Leora noticed the other humans nearby. They moved efficiently, but not with cruelty. There was respect among them, trust in their leader, Lucas. She realized that the reputation she had been told about humans did not reflect what she now saw. Humans were disciplined, yes, but their strength came with order, not chaos. Their loyalty was earned, not demanded. The reception was formal, filled with diplomats and council members from both sides. Leora's pulse quickened as she entered, but Lucas remained calm, walking beside her as if they were equals, not enemies or captives. People whispered and stared, but he ignored them, focusing only on Leora. His confidence was quiet but undeniable. Throughout the event, Lucas demonstrated patience and intelligence, speaking only when necessary, listening carefully, and showing respect to all present. Leora could see the effect he had on humans and aliens alike. People who had expected harshness now looked surprised, some even admiring. She realized that his reputation had painted a false picture, one that made him seem more dangerous than he truly was. Later, when the crowd had dispersed, Leora and Lucas returned to a private room. She finally allowed herself to speak freely. I did not expect any of this, she admitted. I thought you would be cruel, as everyone said, but you are kind in your own way. You are not what I feared. Lucas smiled gently. Fear can make anyone see monsters where there are none. I do not blame you for believing the stories. They are easy to hear and they are repeated often. but I hope you can see me as I truly am, not as the shadows of rumor." Leora nodded, feeling a strange warmth in her chest. For the first time, she did not feel trapped by duty or fear. She could see the man before her clearly, and in that clarity a new feeling emerged: respect, curiosity, and perhaps the beginnings of trust. That night, as Leora lay in her room aboard the neutral station, she could not stop thinking about Lucas. He was not the monster she had imagined. He was human, yes, but he was strong in ways she had not understood before. He was patient, kind, intelligent, and brave. The stories she had heard were only fragments of the truth, shadows of misunderstanding. She realized that everything she had feared about the future was not inevitable. She could face this marriage, not as a prisoner of fear, but as someone who had seen the truth for herself. And in that thought, a small spark of hope lit within her. The human she had dreaded meeting had become, instead, a man worthy of attention and perhaps, one day, trust. Leora closed her eyes, feeling the weight of fear lessen slightly. Tomorrow she would face more challenges, more questions, and more uncertainty. But tonight she had discovered something powerful. The truth could be stronger than fear. And with that thought, she finally fell asleep, the stars outside her window shining gently, as if acknowledging the first step in a new understanding between two very different worlds. The next morning, the neutral station was quiet, almost too quiet. Princess Leora awoke with a mixture of curiosity and nervousness. Her mind kept returning to Lucas, the human she had feared but now could hardly stop thinking about. She had seen him calmly handle the diplomats, noticed his patience, and felt his respect for her. It was a strange feeling, realizing that the man she had imagined as cruel was nothing like the stories. After breakfast, she was informed that Lucas wanted to speak with her privately. Her heart skipped a beat. She had hoped for more time alone with him, but the thought of seeing him again made her nerves tingle with anticipation. She followed Jenna through the corridors of the station, her dress swaying with each careful step. Every sound seemed louder than usual, every shadow a potential distraction, but she tried to focus. She had to face him without letting fear control her. Lucas waited in a small room, simple but clean, with a few chairs and a large viewport overlooking a part of the station's docking bay. When Leora entered, he stood and gave her a small bow. His presence was calm, steady, and unlike the cold image she had built in her mind. "Good morning, Princess," he said softly. "I hope you slept well." Leora nodded a little shyly. "Yes, I think so," she said. "Thank you for asking." Lucas motioned toward a chair. "Please sit. I wanted to speak with you about everything you have heard about humans. I think it is important you understand the truth, not just the stories." Leora sat slowly, her hands folded in her lap. She studied him carefully. There was no arrogance, no threat, only quiet confidence. She could feel the sincerity in his tone, and it made her want to trust him, though she was still cautious. "I want to know," she said softly. "Everything. I want to understand. Humans have always been mysterious to me. We are taught to fear you, to think of you as cruel. But after meeting you, I am not sure what to believe anymore." Lucas nodded, as if he had expected this. He leaned slightly forward, resting his forearms on his knees. "I understand. Fear often comes from misunderstanding. Humans have a reputation because we fight wars and defend ourselves fiercely. We value strength and strategy, and sometimes that can seem harsh to others. But strength without understanding is useless. Humans are not cruel by nature. We have rules, loyalty, and honor. We protect those we care about." Leora listened carefully, absorbing every word. She had read about human wars and seen reports of battles, but hearing Lucas speak in this calm and honest way made the stories feel different. It was like seeing the same events through a clearer lens. She realized that humans were not monsters. They were complex, disciplined, and sometimes harsh because the universe required them to be. "And you," she said, her voice hesitant, "are you truly like that?" People say you are cruel, that you do not care for anyone. Lucas's gaze held her steadily. I have made hard choices. I have followed orders that caused suffering, yes, but only to protect more lives. Cruelty is never my goal. I act when necessary, but I always think of the consequences. I value life and honor more than many realize. The stories you hear are often exaggerated. People remember fear more than truth. Leora felt her chest tighten. She had never thought she would meet someone who could make her question everything she had been told. The fear that had filled her for so long seemed to lose some of its grip. She could see Lucas clearly now, not as a shadow of rumor but as a real man, thoughtful and capable of care. It is hard to believe, she admitted. I have lived my whole life hearing lies about humans, about you. It feels strange to see the truth. Lucas gave a small, understanding smile. It is not easy to change what we have believed, but seeing the truth is always worth the effort. And I hope you will judge me and my people by our actions, not by what others say. Leora nodded slowly. She wanted to believe him, but she knew it would take time. Trust was not given easily, and fear was not removed with words alone. Yet, she felt a growing curiosity, a desire to learn more, to see humans as they truly were. Over the next hours, Lucas shared stories of his past, not to boast, but to explain. He spoke of battles he had fought, decisions he had made, and moments when he had saved lives even when the cost was great. Leora listened intently, realizing that every action had a reason, every decision a purpose. He was not cruel. He was careful, thoughtful, and strong in ways that she had never considered. He spoke of humans as a people who learned from mistakes, who valued loyalty, and who could be gentle despite strength. Leora began to understand that humans were not a single image of fear, but a complex society with rules, honor, and intelligence. The rumors had painted only the extremes, leaving shadows where the truth should have been. You see, Lucas said, fear makes stories grow bigger than life. Humans fight to survive, yes, but we also protect, teach, and care. Strength without purpose is meaningless. That is the difference you must understand. Leora nodded, feeling a strange sense of relief. The fear that had gripped her heart began to loosen. She realized that Lucas was not the monster she had imagined, and humans were not a single kind of cruelty. There was depth, thought, and heart in their actions. As the day passed, they walked through parts of the station together. Lucas showed her the training areas, the communication hubs, and the medical facilities. Leora noticed how humans moved efficiently but not violently. They were disciplined, yes, but they worked together with respect. She saw the trust they placed in Lucas, the loyalty that was earned through understanding and fairness, not fear. Your people seem very organized, Leora remarked. And loyal, Lucas nodded. Humans value loyalty because we know life is fragile. Trust is earned, not demanded. My people follow me because they believe in what we are doing, not because they fear me. Leora thought of her own advisors, who often relied on fear to maintain order. She realized that humans had strength that inspired respect rather than terror. It was a new way of thinking, one she had never considered. Later, as they sat in a quiet observation room overlooking the stars, Lucas shared something personal. I accepted this marriage because I wanted to prevent war. I knew there would be rumors, fear, and misunderstanding. But if we can work together, if we can show our people that understanding is stronger than fear, maybe we can change the way our worlds see each other. Leora felt a strange warmth in her chest. He was not only strong and intelligent, but thoughtful. He cared about more than rules or orders. He cared about people, about peace, and about truth. She could see now that the human she had feared might become an ally, maybe even a friend, if not more, in the future. I hope I can learn to see humans like you do, she said softly. Not as monsters, but as people. Lucas smiled, a quiet, sincere smile. You already have, Princess. You already have. They sat in silence for a while, watching the stars. Leora felt her fear melting away, replaced with curiosity, respect, and something she could not yet name. She realized that she had judged before knowing, feared before seeing, and believed stories before understanding. The truth, she now knew, was far more complex than she had imagined. As night fell on the station, Leora returned to her room, her mind full of thoughts about Lucas and humans. She realized that fear could no longer control her. She could face him, face her marriage, and face the future with open eyes. The human she had dreaded had become someone she could understand, someone she could respect, maybe even someone she could trust. She lay in her bed, staring at the stars outside her window, thinking of the words Lucas had spoken, the truth he had shown her, and the new perspective she had gained. Humans were not cruel by nature. They were strong, disciplined, and capable of great care. Lucas was not the monster she had feared. He was a man of honor, patience, and heart. And as sleep came to her that night, Leora realized something important. Sometimes the greatest strength was not in fear or power, but in understanding. And she was ready to see what lay ahead, not as a prisoner of fear, but as someone who could face the truth with courage and an open heart. The journey between their worlds had only just begun, but Leora knew one thing. She had already taken the first step toward seeing humans and Lucas for who they truly were. The next morning, the neutral station was busy. Leora walked through the corridors with Lucas by her side. She felt calmer than before, her fear replaced by curiosity and trust. She still remembered the rumors and stories about humans, but they no longer controlled her thoughts. Lucas had shown her another side, one that was patient, kind, and strong. Today, the council will discuss the details of the alliance, Lucas said softly as they walked. It is a necessary step, though I know it may be stressful for you. Leora nodded. She had prepared herself to stay calm, but there was still tension in her chest. She had seen Lucas's strength, but she had not yet seen how he acted in true danger. She hoped she would never have to. The council chamber was larger than the last hall. Delegates from many worlds sat in rows, speaking quietly among themselves. Leora took a deep breath and followed Lucas to the center, where a few chairs were placed for them. She could feel the eyes of dozens of aliens and humans on her, and she straightened her posture. Lucas stayed calm, moving with quiet confidence. The meeting began and discussions went smoothly at first. Both sides debated strategies, resources, and terms of the alliance. Leora listened carefully, asking questions when needed. She noticed that Lucas spoke only when necessary, his words measured, and his tone calm. The council members seemed to respect him, though some were still wary. Then, a sudden alarm echoed through the chamber. Red lights flashed and the hum of machinery was replaced by a sharp warning. Panic rose instantly. Leora's heart leapt into her throat. She did not know what was happening. People shouted orders and security personnel moved quickly, their faces tense. "Stay calm," Lucas said quietly, taking her hand and guiding her behind a console. "We need to get to a safe location. Do not panic." His voice was calm, steady, and firm. Leora felt a strange sense of safety, even as chaos surrounded them. She looked at him, realizing that his strength was not only in words or presence but in action. He did not hesitate, did not falter. He moved decisively, thinking of everyone's safety. Through the communications panel, a warning came. An extremist faction had breached the station. Their goal was to assassinate Leora, to destroy the alliance before it could begin. The words sent a chill through her, but Lucas remained composed. He scanned the room quickly, assessing threats and planning their movement. "We must move now," he said, his voice calm but commanding. "Follow me and stay close." Leora clutched his hand tightly as they ran through the corridors. The sounds of alarms, distant explosions, and shouts echoed around them. She realized that fear could not control her here. Lucas's calmness and focus gave her courage. She began to see what humans could do under pressure, how their discipline and quick thinking saved lives. They reached a secondary chamber, a safe room designed for emergencies. Lucas checked the doors, sealing them quickly while ensuring Leora was behind cover. He moved with precision, each action calculated to protect her and anyone nearby. Leora watched in awe. This was the human strength she had only begun to understand, the courage to act decisively, the ability to protect others even when danger was near. "Are you all right?" he asked, his eyes scanning her face. She nodded, though her heart was still racing. I am fine," she said, "because you are here." Lucas gave a small smile, but his eyes were alert. "We must stay cautious. They will try again." Humans do not give up easily, and neither should we. Over the next minutes, the station's security personnel worked to contain the extremists. Lucas coordinated with them, giving instructions calmly and clearly. Leora saw him speak with authority, not with fear or anger, but with respect. People followed him not because they feared punishment, but because they trusted him. She realized that this was the difference she had been trying to understand. The true strength of humans was not in cruelty, but in their ability to act with purpose, intelligence, and care. Then, the extremists attempted to breach the safe room. Leora froze, her fear returning, but Lucas stepped forward. He placed himself between the door and the threat, his presence commanding and protective. He did not panic. He did not hesitate. With a few swift actions, he disabled the attackers' entry methods, neutralizing the threat without unnecessary violence. Leora watched, her chest swelling with a mix of fear, admiration, and relief. She had feared cruelty, but what she saw was courage, precision, and protection. Lucas was not cruel. He was disciplined, strong, and brave. He placed her safety above all else, and in that moment she understood something profound. The humans she had feared were not monsters. They were protectors, capable of great strength and care. After the danger had passed, the station slowly returned to normal. The council members, shaken but safe, praised Lucas for his quick thinking. Leora followed, her thoughts racing. She had witnessed the truth firsthand. Humans could be terrifying in battle, yes, but their strength was a shield, not a weapon of fear. She had always thought she would be afraid of Lucas, but now her admiration had replaced fear. "You were amazing," she said quietly as they walked through a quiet corridor away from the others. I did not know humans could be like that. You protected everyone, and yet you did not hurt more than necessary." Lucas looked at her, his calm expression showing a small warmth. "We do what is necessary to survive and to protect those who cannot protect themselves. Cruelty is easy. Protection is hard. The difference matters." Leora felt a wave of respect and trust wash over her. She realized that the stories she had heard were only part of the truth. Humans were strong, yes, but they were capable of care, wisdom, and courage. And Lucas, the human she had feared, was the perfect example. That night, as she lay in her room, Leora could not stop thinking about what had happened. She had faced danger and fear, yet she had not felt helpless. Lucas had shown her a strength she had never seen before, not just in battle but in his heart. He had protected her, not with cruelty but with courage, discipline, and care. She realized that her fear of humans had been built on stories, on exaggerations, and on misunderstandings. Now she could see the truth. Humans could be terrifying in battle, but their strength was rooted in protection, loyalty, and intelligence. Lucas had shown her that, and she could not help but feel admiration growing alongside her understanding. The following days were filled with preparation for the formal alliance ceremony. Leora moved through the station with a new sense of confidence. She had seen humans in action, had witnessed their strength and care, and had begun to understand their ways. Fear no longer controlled her thoughts. Curiosity, respect, and cautious trust had taken its place. Lucas continued to guide her, not with orders but with quiet suggestions and explanations. He treated her as an equal, respecting her opinions and concerns. Leora noticed how humans responded to him, following not because of fear but because of trust. It was a lesson in leadership, discipline, and honor, and she absorbed every detail, knowing that it would shape her understanding of the Alliance and of humanity forever. One evening, as they looked out over the stars from the observation deck, Leora spoke softly. I did not know humans could be like this. I thought you were cruel, and yet I see now that you are not. You protect, you care, and you lead. It is different from what I expected. Lucas turned to her, his expression gentle. I am glad you see it. Humans are more than stories and rumors. We are complex and we make mistakes, but we also strive to do what is right. I hope that over time you will understand us fully. Leora nodded, a small smile on her lips. She felt a strange warmth in her chest, a mix of admiration, trust, and perhaps the beginnings of something deeper. She had feared Lucas, feared humans, and yet now she could not help but feel drawn to their strength, discipline, and care. The events at the station had changed everything. Fear had been replaced by understanding, misunderstanding by truth, and uncertainty by cautious trust. Leora realized that the alliance was more than politics. It was a chance to see humanity for what it truly was and to learn from it. As the stars stretched endlessly outside the viewport, Leora knew one thing. She was ready for the next step. She had seen Lucas's courage, his protection, and his heart. She had witnessed human strength in action, and she was no longer afraid. The danger had passed, but the lessons remained. And Leora knew that, with Lucas by her side, the future held possibilities she had never imagined. Possibilities built on trust, courage, and understanding between two very different worlds. The day of the formal alliance ceremony arrived, and the neutral station was alive with activity. Delegations from many worlds moved through the halls, their uniforms and garments bright and elaborate. Leora stood in her chamber, dressed in a simple yet elegant gown. She felt calm, a stark difference from the fear that had gripped her weeks ago. She had met Lucas, seen his strength, and learned the truth about humans. Now she understood that the marriage was more than a duty. It was a step toward trust, understanding, and a new future. Jenna helped her adjust her gown and hair, smiling warmly. You look beautiful, princess, and calm. I am proud of you. Leora nodded, taking a deep breath. Thank you, Jenna. I am ready, not afraid, only hopeful. As she walked toward the main hall, she saw Lucas waiting. His dark uniform was neat, his posture calm and confident. When he saw her, a small, genuine smile crossed his face. He did not look threatening, nor distant, only steady and reassuring. Leora felt a wave of relief and warmth. She had feared this moment, but now she felt ready. The hall was vast, filled with delegates, council members, and observers from multiple worlds. A hush fell over the room as Leora and Lucas entered. Whispers spread quickly. Many had heard the rumors about Lucas's cruelty, and some had feared the marriage would be a disaster. Now they saw him walking beside the princess, calm, respectful, and composed. The ceremony began. Delegates spoke of the importance of unity, the need for peace, and the hope that the alliance would prevent future wars. Leora listened carefully, her eyes occasionally meeting Lucas's. She saw understanding in his gaze, respect, and patience. She no longer feared him. Instead, she felt a sense of partnership, a shared responsibility to protect not only their own people but the galaxy's fragile peace. When it was time for the vows, Leora stepped forward. She looked at Lucas, her hands steady. She remembered all she had learned, the truth about humans, his honesty, his protection, and the courage she had witnessed during the attack at the station. She realized that the stories of cruelty and fear were shadows compared to the truth she now knew. Lucas took her hands in his touch firm but gentle. He did not command or demand, he simply held her, a gesture of trust and partnership. Princess Leora, he said, his voice clear and calm, I will honor you, protect you, and work beside you. I promise to act with wisdom, strength, and care, as we build a future together for our people and the worlds we serve." Leora felt her heart swell. She had feared this man, this human, as cruel and unyielding. Now she knew him to be brave, kind, and honorable. She nodded, her voice steady. "Lucas, I accept your vow. I promise to trust you, to work with you, and to see humans and you as you truly are. Together, we will protect our people and build a future of understanding and strength." When they exchanged symbols of their union, the room fell silent. The air was tense, but not with fear. It was filled with anticipation and respect. For the first time, many delegates saw a human and an alien standing together, equal, united, and calm. The alliance was no longer just a treaty on paper. It was alive in their presence, built on trust and understanding. After the ceremony, the hall erupted in applause. Some delegates were surprised, some relieved, and some inspired. Whispers spread. The human was not cruel. The princess was not afraid. The marriage was not a disaster. It was a beginning. Leora and Lucas stood together, facing the audience, their eyes meeting occasionally, sharing silent words of reassurance and understanding. Later, in a private chamber, Leora finally allowed herself to speak freely. "I cannot believe how different this is from what I imagined. The humans, the stories, even you, I feared you, and yet now I see everything in a new light." Lucas smiled gently. "Fear is easy. Understanding takes courage. You have shown that courage, princess. You have seen beyond stories and rumors. That is the first step toward peace." Leora felt a strange warmth in her chest, a mixture of admiration, trust, and something more. She had feared him, feared humans, and feared what the future would bring. Now she felt hope and confidence. She realized that Lucas was not only strong and brave, but thoughtful and kind. He had protected her, guided her, and shown her the truth. She knew that with him by her side, they could face anything. Over the next days, Leora and Lucas worked together to finalize the details of the alliance. They held meetings, discussed strategies, and listened to concerns from both sides. Leora noticed how Lucas treated every person with respect, how he listened carefully, and how he made decisions with both wisdom and care. She saw the loyalty he inspired in humans, not through fear, but through trust and fairness. Leora also began to see the power of combining human strength with alien intelligence. Together, they found solutions to problems that neither could solve alone. Their people began to trust one another, slowly breaking down the walls of prejudice and fear. Leora felt proud, knowing that she had played a part in this new understanding, and that Lucas had guided her with patience and courage. One evening, they stood together on the observation deck, watching the stars stretch endlessly across the sky. Leora felt a quiet sense of peace. She had feared the unknown, feared the human, and feared Lucas himself. Now she understood the truth. Humans were strong, disciplined, and capable of great care. Lucas was not cruel, but honorable, brave, and wise. "I never thought I would see humans like this," she said softly, "and I never thought I would trust one so completely." Lucas looked at her, his expression gentle. "Trust must be earned, and you have seen the truth for yourself. That is what matters. We cannot change the past, but we can shape the future together." Leora nodded, feeling the weight of fear finally lift from her shoulders. She had learned, experienced, and seen the truth. The human she had dreaded had become someone she respected, trusted, and admired. She realized that strength was not about fear or cruelty. It was about protection, care, and understanding. As the days turned into weeks, the alliance strengthened. Humans and aliens began to work together, learning from one another and sharing resources and knowledge. Leora and Lucas became a symbol of this new cooperation, their union inspiring hope and trust across the galaxy. Delegates who had once whispered about cruelty now spoke of courage, honor, and unity. The story of fear and misunderstanding was replaced by one of respect, partnership, and mutual trust. Leora could see the difference in her people, the way they looked at humans now, not with fear, but with curiosity and hope. One evening, as they walked through the quiet corridors of the station, Leora took Lucas's hand in hers. She looked up at him, her eyes clear and confident. "I feared you once," she said softly, "but now I see the truth. You are not cruel. You are strong, brave, and kind. I trust you completely." Lucas squeezed her hand gently, a small smile on his face. "And I trust you, Leora. Together we can face anything, our people, our worlds, and the future itself." They stood together, looking out over the vast expanse of stars. The galaxy, once full of fear and misunderstanding, now held the promise of unity and peace. Leora felt hope in her heart, knowing that this was only the beginning. She had feared the human she would marry, feared the stories she had been told, and feared the unknown. But she had seen the truth. She had met Lucas, faced danger, and witnessed courage and protection firsthand. She had learned that humans were not monsters. They were strong, disciplined, and capable of great care. And she had learned that Lucas, the human she had dreaded, was someone worthy of trust, respect, and admiration. As the stars twinkled endlessly before them, Leora and Lucas stood side by side, ready to face the future together. The alliance was more than politics. It was proof that understanding, courage, and trust could overcome fear. And for the first time in her life, Leora felt completely certain that the galaxy could be a better place, with humans and aliens working together, and with her human husband by her side. The journey that had begun with fear, rumors, and misunderstanding had ended with trust, respect, and hope. Leora had learned that courage was not just in battle, but in seeing the truth, facing fear, and choosing to trust. Lucas had shown her that humans were capable of great strength and even greater care. Together, they had begun to reshape the galaxy, proving that fear could be replaced by understanding, and stories of cruelty could become stories of honor and unity. And as they stood together, hand in hand, looking out at the endless stars, Leora knew that this was only the beginning of a future built on trust, courage, and a new understanding between two very different worlds. The galaxy had once feared humans, but now, because of Lucas and Leora, it had reason to hope.